and we will get to as many questions as we can. Dee, the floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you, George. I appreciate it, and welcome everybody today. We wanted to take some time, certainly before we held a press conference, because all of our efforts and all of our focus has been on Damar and his family. I made the trip down to Cincinnati on Tuesday, had an opportunity to meet his family and his wonderful team there. Before we get started, just a couple of things I wanted to say. This has been a tough week, and it's been a long week. It's been hard to certainly watch the game on Monday night. Hard to think about what the family is going through. Our prayers and all of our thoughts have been with him and with his family, along with the brotherhood of all of the NFL players. I think it's time for us to certainly talk about what happened. We want to give you as much information as we can. Obviously, we're going to be somewhat guarded about. Mr. Radney, can you mute? There you go. We're going to be mindful of both his privacy and the privacy of the family. Hold on, maybe I can do it. There you go. We're going to be mindful of his privacy and the privacy of the family, but I do want to be able to give you some medical update that we've been allowed to share with you. And certainly I know that there's going to be probably some questions that you have about his medical condition that we're just not going to answer. I just want to tell you why in advance. It's just to protect his privacy. The other thing that I would want to say is I'm extremely proud of the entire medical staff, both at the game and in Cincinnati at the hospital there, that has been taking care of him. They've done a tremendous job. They did a tremendous job on the field. And this is why we as a union advocate so much in the health and safety space, not because we're just wanting to exercise our duties as a union, but we truly understand the risk that go into this game. We know that it is a dangerous game. We know that people can get hurt. And on Monday night, we learned certainly the extent to which those injuries can pose a life or death threat to the people who are working. The last thing I wanted to say before we start into questions is I'm extremely proud of our player leadership, extremely proud of our executive committee. Most of you know we had an executive committee member on the field that night. The leaders in those locker rooms, the leaders that we have around the country have done a tremendous job of not only responding to things that happened on the field, but absorbing everything that we've been dealing with all week. From where we sit, where JC sits and the rest of the union, we know that this is a tremendous game. We know that, this certainly falls into the category of entertainment. But as we've tried to remind everyone, this is a business that is operated by humans, breathing humans, and they're people's sons, their husbands, their fathers. And that's where we have always tried to keep our focus, given our work. So with that, George, we can open it up to questions. Hopefully you have control. If not, you just tell me what to do, and I'll do it like I always do.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give Dr. Mayer an opportunity, because he's there in Cincinnati at the moment, to share his update. And then if people have questions, we're going to try to do this as orderly as possible, just using the hand raise feature, and we will get to as many as we can. Dr. Mayer, you're up.
Thanks, George. I appreciate it. I am at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. For the past few days, I've been here to assure the family that Damar gets the best possible medical care possible. and to support them and his team of people who were with him through this, frankly, horrifying process. I've also worked closely with Bill's training staff, head trainer Nate Bresky, and Brandon and Tabani from his team, as well as coordinating with Dr. Les Bisson and Tom White, two of their team physicians. It's been a joy and it's been a strain, and we're very pleased with the progress that's been made, and I'll say more about that in a minute. I can't overstress the importance of the NFLPA's long-time insistence on emergency action plans, or EAPs. If you hear us use that word, those are the emergency action plans, which are mandated through the CBA. The importance of these to the successful outcome of this case really cannot be overstated. They're submitted to and approved by me and are really the backbone of successfully dealing with events such as these and others. The EAPs have to be practiced in drills every year, both at the practice facility and at the game facility. Each person's role in 5 different clinical scenarios, disaster scenarios, are assessed under very realistic conditions and then submitted the results to us. For the past 10 years, we've mandated meetings of the club and sideline medical staff where roles are assigned, a so-called 60-minute meeting. Sometimes it occurs at 90 minutes, but we call it the 60-minute meeting, and literally go around the room and says, okay, cardiac arrest, who's leading the resuscitation, or the code as we call it. And it was done in this case as well. Also, preparation is critical to the success. Let's be very clear. If you plot it out and look at it as I have, and we've, Dr. Hines and I have rewound this many times and will many more, within 30 yards of where Damar fell, almost on the logo at the 50-yard line, were 3 of the most highly trained and skilled emergency physicians in the world. And emergency physicians, as you know, are the experts in patient resuscitation. Their names are Dr. Woods Curry. He was the airway management physician who ran the resuscitation. Dr. Jason McMullen, also an emergency physician, and Dr. Brett Betts. Dr. Betts is the emergency physician, but also team physician for the Bengals, who very kindly and aggressively came out. And so that 3-person unit was responsible for saving his life, period. I've met with them here at University of Cincinnati Medical Center. The family has met with them. That was a very grateful and tearful reunion, as you might guess, for all parties involved. But thank you to them. From there, the field, he was taken to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center's emergency department, which is a world's leader in resuscitation science and has been as long as I've been a physician. They performed flawlessly and transported him to the trauma service with very talented emergency and critical care folks. Dr. Tim Pritz, who is the chief of general surgery and their trauma service, superb at both his clinical skills and his communication skills. I've sat through all the debriefings with the family, and Dr. William Knight, an emergency physician and critical care expert there. Their team was flawless, impeccable, not just on the clinical side, as I said, but the communication side, and the nursing staff, support staff, led by Shelley Gordon, who heads up that unit, took it from there. And folks, it just doesn't get any better than that. This is a Pro Bowl, Super Bowl, elite level group of physicians, nurses, and technicians. As to the player, as you know, we never comment specifically on individual player care, but what I can share with permission of the family is that, well, there's a long way to go. All signs are optimistic, highly optimistic, and point to what is likely to be a full neurologic recovery. Now, we've got to get there, but so far things have been very, very positive. I think you've heard it's a matter of public record that when he woke up, which was much sooner than expected, his first question was, did we win the game? And as Dr. Pritz so wisely said, Damar, you won the game of life. And that's in no small measure to that group of people that I've mentioned, but also, again, without the EAP, without the union stressing the importance of working closely together with all these physicians and the team physicians. I compliment the Bills team physicians for recognizing this was a crucial situation and doing the all call, the helicopter sign is what pulls everyone onto the field. On a personal note, despite the careful plans and the drills and the superb professionals who cared for him, there's a critical aspect of this outcome that no one should miss, and that is the courage, the character, the tenacity of this young man was essential to him being in the position that he's in now, to continue to heal and to continue to thrive. Because without that, we simply wouldn't be discussing this in the positive light it so richly deserves. And that comes in no small measure from his parents, Nina and Mario, who are simply great people. So I would say that Damar chose his parents very, very wisely. And as you know, we're all on Team Damar now, supporting him. And I'm going to turn this to our Deputy Medical Director and Chief Health Equity Officer. If you've not met Colonel Sid Hines, Dr. Hines is a brilliant neuroscientist, a long career in the and decorated career in the military. And he'll share a few words about, the broad phenomenon that was responsible for this. And I would say that all the physicians here, we talked at some length this morning, and I agree on where this came from. So Sid, turn it over to you, partner.
Tom, thanks very much, and thanks for your presence there in Cincinnati. I know it means the world to everyone there. A lot of people have been speculating about, what would have caused this. Young, healthy, great condition, young man, and what we have seen through the video and what we know. Tom and I discussed this and probably said it in unison, but commotio cordis, a blow that hits you in the chest and hits you in a very, very unique time. And that's when there's an upstroke of the heart. And go back to what an EKG looks like, the second peak, it has to hit you in the right place. And so it's a very rare incidence. It doesn't happen very often at all, but we know about it. And to what Tom spoke about, the emergency action plans, preparing the teams ahead of time, that's all part of hoping for the best and preparing for the worst. And that's what happened. They were ready. So one of the things I want to touch on, I was in Cincinnati earlier this week, is, Damar is going to be getting an evaluation, a continuous evaluation as he improves, to take a look at any other underlying causes that or medical conditions that he might have. So I want to make sure that everybody appreciates that, not only cardiovascular, but they're going to look at everything. That's part of the recovery process when someone goes into VFib and has to be defibrillated. So, and the last point I want to make is, we're obviously, our focus is on Damar, but everyone saw the videos. We've met Damar's parents, some of his family, some of his friends. Just want to make sure that everyone's aware that we, through Dr. Amber Cargill at the NFL Players Association, are reaching out to the players, behavioral health teams, to ensure that everyone has someone to speak with, and they can talk these things through. And we've seen a lot of teammates helping with that process. And it's not only going to help Damar, it's going to help the other players and the players' families. And we want to be there and part of that recovery for them all.
JC.
Yeah, I'll be brief so we can get to questions. I think to just start, obviously a very difficult couple days for the entire player community and their families. We've been in touch with not just the locker rooms of Buffalo and Cincinnati, but the locker rooms across the league, as we talked about, providing resources, answering questions, explaining how, these EAPs work and what's in place to make sure people are safe. As Dee touched on, a ton of credit to the leadership shown and the empathy shown from so many different people. I think we start with the locker rooms of Buffalo and Cincinnati, their reps and their captains, who stuck together and knew there are things bigger than the game. Ton of credit to our executive committee and our NFLPA staff of being ready to handle such a scary moment. And I give a ton of credit to the coaches of
I'm listening to the press conference.
Who again had their players' best interest and safety at heart. So I think there was a ton of superstars that shine bright during this very scary incident.
Great. All right. I'm going to call questions as I see them. And in the meantime, please, everybody double check your mute. I think I figured out how to mute folks.
We're gonna now, you'll see here, overnight, get back to freezing.
Maybe not.
But then the next couple of days,
And we've got a weather
so it'll
report.
be a
Hold
good
on, let me
scenario. The mountain chooses to actually make snow, but Mother Nature will deliver some.
Okay, did I get? Jeez. Okay, let's go with Mike Jones. You had your hand up first, please.
Hey, thanks for doing this, guys. Dee, I wondered if you could kind of give us a little bit of a look inside the immediate moments when you, Roger, officials were talking, reacting to this. There was a little bit of confusion as far as deciding whether to suspend or postpone the game or return. What was those discussions like for you and your team, and what was your reaction to how things played out?
Yeah, it's probably best if both JC and I weigh in on this. I was on the phone with Roger immediately, and once I realized just how serious it was, made it clear that I believe that the game should be postponed. I think I mentioned earlier, Michael Thomas is one of our executive committee members, plays for the Bengals. I was able to reach him and have a conversation with him. And at the same time, JC, you should probably just walk through sort of the tick-tock of what was going on with respect to the executive committee and others. But from my side, that's what it is. And I'll let JC kind of flesh out the rest of the picture.
Yeah, the moment the incident happened, we made sure we connected as an executive committee. It was unanimous that we did not think that game should continue after that incident. We stayed in touch with the staff. The staff was on it. Dee was on with Roger. We were connected to the league office. Once the players left the field, we immediately got in touch with the reps and the EC members that were on each team, spoke to them. They were both very clear that their teams and their locker rooms did not want to continue. We continued to push that message forward that this should not continue. And I think as we've seen in the last couple days, as players have spoken about it being on the field, as well as the coaches, everybody there knew that game shouldn't continue. So we continued to push that message to make sure that was the outcome that came from it.
Thanks, Mike. Any answer your question? I hope we can move on to the next question.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Next in the queue, Liz Mullen.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. There was a lot of discussion on ESPN about resuming the game and about some sort of 5-minute warm-up period. And I want to know, did the NFL discuss this with you? Did the NFL discuss, or did you have any discussions about resuming the game and some sort of 5-minute warm-up?
No.
When you heard this on ESPN, what was your reaction?
I hate to say it, but I don't watch ESPN, so I didn't hear anything. But I guess, Liz, what's the question?
Well, people watching the game were told that it was going to resume.
Oh,
There
you
was talk of a 5-minute
Oh, yeah.
warm-up. And then
Yeah.
there was talk that the NFL never said that, and somehow it got on ESPN. And I want to know from the union's perspective, did you hear anything or discuss resuming the game initially or at any time? And did you discuss, postponing it? Was there any pushback from the league? What happened?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're talking about Monday night, right?
I'm talking about what happened at the game, what people saw, what millions of Americans saw.
Monday, yes, Monday night. Okay, so when I didn't hear anything about a 5-minute resume. I mean, I was on calls for most of the time. No one talked to me about a 5-minute, let's get ready to play. So I think that's the only way I can answer your question.
Well, I guess my question is for JC, were the players at any time told that they were going to go back on the field and play the game?
Well, I think, like I said, our stance from the moment the incident happened was that game shouldn't continue. We made that determination as a group, as players, as the player leadership, as a staff. The moment we saw, what was a very scary, disturbing sight, obviously that took a lot longer to be implemented, and the decision is, in the hands of the league. In the end, it took a good while before that decision was made. I think they have the answer to those questions on why it took so long for a decision that was pretty obvious to everybody else, why it took so long for it to happen. But the players, I think, had no interest in playing, and as the coaches talked about, I think whether it was Zach or Sean mentioned it, Sean said he didn't have any interest in coaching that game and needed to get to the hospital. So I don't think they were focused on playing either. So I'm not sure what was said on the field, but once they got to the locker rooms, they had no interest in going back on the field.
Do the players communicate? I'm sorry. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Not my intention to be rude, but we're 30 minutes in and we've got a bunch of other folks in the queue. Thank you. Adam Kilgore, you're up.
Hey, Dee, thanks for doing this. What is the union's voice in how to move forward with possibly rescheduling or what the schedule will be, and what is the union's position on that?
Yeah, we don't have a role in scheduling. Our job is to hold the league accountable to wages, hours, and working conditions. The management right clause gives management the right to schedule when the work, when the scheduled work can occur. If they want to add work, they have to bargain with the union, but otherwise we're not involved in those decisions. Labor law.
And maybe JC could chime in too if you want. Do you have a position even if you're not able to sort of have a voice at the table, so to speak?
No, I think as Dee explained, it would be a waste of time to kind of sort through possibilities if we don't have a say in it. So we don't have an opinion, and that's up to the league to make their decision.
Thanks, Adam. Patrick Freeman.
Attorney Smith, Pat Freeman from the Buffalo Criterion newspaper. How are you today?
Awesome. How are you?
I was at the game on Monday covering the game in Cincinnati, but I was also covering the game when Kevin Everett was hurt. And a few days later, your predecessor came and met with the media and assured us that Kevin Everett would be receiving over $284,000 a year for the rest of his life if he could not play the game again. Is that the same for Damar in worst case scenario?
Yeah, I would never, ever talk about the player's benefits. That's private between him. And you probably know I never answer hypotheticals. The only thing I care about right now is being there when that young man walks out the door. And he knows, and everybody knows, that his union, as it has been since the day he went into the hospital, his union will be there when he walks out the door, and will be with him for whatever he needs going forward.
I appreciate that, but what would be his disability benefit for any player
Um,
that could not play again?
It's a fact-specific question, and I can only repeat what I said, and I hope you hear it. I never engage in hypotheticals, and I would never talk about disability. I would never, hopefully no lawyer would talk about the disability payments that you would receive if something happened to you at work on a national platform. I don't think you would appreciate it. And I know sure as hell I wouldn't.
All right, thank you.
Louise, your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Thanks very much. I just wanted to make sure I understood Dr. Hines correctly. Is it the Players Association's assessment that commotio cordis is the most likely explanation for what happened on Monday night? Are there other explanations you're considering? And while I realize it's very early days, are there any policy proposals that are on mind right now, should we say, for how this could be avoided, or if it was commotio cordis, is your sense that this is the kind of freak accident that can only be addressed with emergency action plans?
Louise, thanks very much for that question. So we don't provide medical care on the NFL Players Association side of the house. This is information that we've gleaned from watching the video and talking with the medical staff at UC. Like most physicians, we work on what we call a differential diagnosis. You know, what is the most likely cause? But as I mentioned, he has already had a beginning of a workup for other causes, other issues he might have had that are separate from the ventricular fibrillation. So what we hope to do is take it, one step at a time, one day at a time, and see how Damar progresses, and then continue that evaluation.
Yeah, I would just add to that I've spoken for the last several days, including hours today, with the team of physicians here at UC Medical Center, and commotio cordis is a diagnosis by exclusion, meaning rule out all other possibilities which could have caused that to occur. It is a traumatically induced cardiac dysrhythmia, which is unusual and quite unique in that respect. We support their thinking and their diagnosis. As Dr. Hines indicated, he'll have, without question, somebody in this situation would have cardiac studies. Some have been done already, ruling out myocarditis and other things that could have caused it. But others will be done in most cases like this to look at conduction issues, so-called EP, electrophysiology in the heart. And as I said, we support them. Now, the good news is, if indeed that continues to be the presumptive working diagnosis, that is so exceedingly rare that someone who had it would not be at risk for it in the future. And if indeed that turns out to be the final diagnosis, then there's been 24,000 men who played this game in the National Football League, and this has never occurred before. So it would be a 1 in 24,000 incidents. So we're supporting their working diagnosis right now.
Thank you. Ryan, thanks for joining.
Hey guys, Ryan O'Halloran from Buffalo News, one for D and one for JC. D, what kind of resources from a mental health standpoint, be it personnel, are available to the Bills players this week?
Yep. So, I'm proud to say that's actually one thing we've done extremely well with the league. You probably know in 2010 or so, we hired our first director of wellness and built out the NFLPA's mental health resources. So we, in a nutshell, have the ability to provide whatever services we need to provide to anyone in the country free of charge. But also Dr. Inyanka Lamti, who actually first worked with us at the NFL. PA is now the director of wellness at the league. She's working with Amber Cargill, our director of wellness. We've made sure that all of the teams who have full-time wellness people, that they are being supplemented by any resources that we can provide. If a team does not have a full-time wellness person or does not have full-time resources, we've been supplementing that, and that's something we've done, and I think has worked real well between us and the league.
Gotcha. And then for JC, the Bills were back on the practice field today. As a former player, what kind of challenge do you think it is for these guys to have Damar's thoughts in one compartment, but getting ready to play a game on Sunday in another compartment?
Yeah, definitely not easy. Again, this is something that I think hit everybody very hard, hit everybody's families very hard as well. I think that's what Dee was just answering. We've talked about having resources available for people to talk about it. I think what we've seen has also been very encouraging is the brotherhood, and I think teams and locker rooms and former players and between locker rooms have rallied together to be there, to be a shoulder, to be strength in numbers. So it is definitely not easy. Obviously, we're getting good news, which I think is probably very helpful to that locker room and all the locker rooms. So that's positive, but definitely not easy.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ryan. George Radney.
Good afternoon. George Radney, Challenger Community Newspaper, Buffalo, New York, Rochester, New York area. Just two quick questions. One question, Dr. Mayer, I believe I was reading the article the same night that this happened, because I remember that as a young kid back in 1971, Chuck Hughes was hit by Dick Butkus in Tiger State, in the old Tiger Stadium. And in the article, it said he had a cardiac arrest, and it sounded similar to what Damar Hamlin seemed to have suffered on Monday night. And unfortunately, he did not make it, Mr. Chuck Hughes. So I believe this has happened before on the football field, cardiac arrest situation.
It's a good question. It's hard to believe that there was anything before my time, but that was actually considerable.
My time too. Now, hold on now.
Yeah, no, understood. But I'm aware of that case. Even as at that time, I was a college football player. I certainly was aware of it, and a Bears fan as well. I eventually tried out with the Bears, but that's ancient history. But no one ever looked into it in any detail. The problem was, and I went back into one as far as we could, and what we knew is that he had a significant cardiac blockage in one of his main coronary arteries, and that it probably did not have anything to do with the trauma. It was probably a cardiac arrest from a myocardial infarction. But there's not a whole lot of what is known is that he had a significant blockage in an artery that could have caused that. But I didn't see any autopsy report other than that. Nothing about did he have blood in the pericardium? Did he have anything else? So again, because commotio cordis is a diagnosis by exclusion, the fact that he had evidence of a myocardial infarction, you'd say, well, it was myocardial infarction and not it would be hit in all likelihood. Does that make sense?
It does somewhat make sense. Because was there any footage? Because I remember we didn't hear about it. It was in the local newspaper like 4 days later. The game's on Sunday, and it was in the paper. You just saw a picture of the guy on the field with Dick Butkus looking over him. Was there any footage that you know of that actually saw what happened?
Let me jump in. Let me jump in. I actually, starting Wednesday, looked for that. I'm sure there's footage, probably reel-to-reel footage somewhere. I mean, he actually was not hit by Dick Butkus. He collapsed near Dick Butkus. The photo is of Dick Butkus looking down on him, but it wasn't the result of contact. Doc's right. Later, they found that he had a nearly 75% blockage in his artery when he collapsed to the ground. So, no, it's not similar, right?
Okay, one quick question for yourself, Mr. Smith, DeMaurice Smith. My question is, with the new money coming, all these three new revenue streams have been coming in to the owners since the players signed that agreement. Now the NFL ticket is going for now with the Apple and with the YouTube and all of that, and it was two other revenue streams. The new TV contract, I think, came after that, and something else. Is there any updating where the players now will still be able to reap the benefits of these new revenue streams that the owners have acquired since the contract was signed?
Yeah, the revenue streams aren't new. I mean, they're new deals, but media and the way that we define media under the collective bargaining agreement is, just to make it clear, we grab revenue from all sources. That's number one. We're always obviously happy when those revenue numbers come up, and we will receive our percentage share like we always have.
All right. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Both of you gentlemen. Thank you both.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, George. Dan Graziano.
I'm curious what kind of feedback you guys are getting from players, I guess specifically on the Bills and the Bengals, but all around the league in terms of any feelings guys have, concerns guys have about playing again, this weekend.
JC, I mean, that's probably.
Yeah, we've obviously been hosting calls the last couple of days. We had an executive committee call. We had a board of reps call. We had calls available for the Bills and the Bengals individually, and then an all-player call last night. So we've wanted to make ourselves extremely available, and also not just us. I think they know that they can get in touch with us to discuss their feelings, but also making sure they know we can put them in touch with people to help them through difficult times. So we haven't got a ton of comments about not feeling like they're able to play. Again, I think we're obviously getting some very positive news, in just the last hours. So I think we haven't talked to people since then. I think it probably will continue to shift throughout the week, and we're hoping we're continuing to get good news, continuing to get progress. And then also we're continuing to put resources into buildings, into team facilities that will help players through, as well as what we've made clear. Our phones are always on for players' families as well. And this is not just an issue where players have to get through some things. Definitely hits the families hard too. Understanding that, sometimes it's easy to forget just how dangerous the sport is. So I think this is a moment where everybody got a little experience, very scary experience with how dangerous the game of football can be. And we want to make sure we have the resources and the professionals available to help people talk through and deal with those emotions.
And Dan, one thing I would say to follow up is, and you've heard probably iterations of this over the last 14 years, our men are not gladiators. That's something that I hate that word when it comes out of reporters' mouths. I hate that word when it comes out of fans' mouths. I hate that word when it even sometimes comes out of our players' mouths, because it assumes that you are somehow less of a human than everybody else. And while this is tragic, I hope that this sends a message that people are aware of the humanity of this game. And yes, it's dangerous, and yes, it's scary. Yes, it's entertainment. But my hope is that people understand and appreciate just the sheer humanity of this game.
Thanks, Dan. Jenny Vrentis.
Hi, I wanted to follow up on the first question that was asked about the conversations that took place on Monday night. Troy Vincent said on Monday night that it never crossed their mind to talk about was warming up to resume play, that was never something that was considered. I wanted to see what your recollection of Monday night was. I think Dee and also JC, was resuming play ever something that was discussed, either in your conversation with Roger, Dee, or at any other point that night?
Not for me, no. Once I was aware of the severity of it, it was just a question of, when when and the necessity of ending this game. I never heard from a player that I talked to who wanted to go back out of the field. I mean, JC.
Yeah, again, I mean, I was in touch with the players in the locker rooms and the executive committee. They were adamant that they shouldn't go back on the field, and they weren't in a state of mind to go back on the field. And again, that was just the executive committee. When that happened, every person said, I wouldn't be able to continue doing this if I was out there right now. So we made our stance known immediately before even talking to the two teams. And then once we were able to get in touch with the two locker rooms, they echoed what we all believed as an executive committee, that the players are not capable of. So those are the communications I was having. I did not talk to Troy personally, though, so I don't know what was going through his head.
Yeah, just to clarify, was there any indication coming from the NFL side that they wanted to resume the game, that they were interested in potentially resuming on Monday night?
I mean, I can only tell you, and I make a habit of not really revealing conversations I have with Roger. I spent more of my time focusing on what I believed was the right call. And it seemed to me that at that moment, when we knew the severity of the injury, I'll be frank with you, I don't think it should be a player's call. I don't think it should be a coach's call. I think given the severity of the injury and what the players witnessed, that it needed to be a call, that the NFL needed to make to not play this game. And I understand. I understand sort of the idea that we'd want to know and we'd want to have feedback and we want to have input. But I do think that there are certain times when it should be beyond the call of the people who are involved and there. I think that sometimes it should just be the decision that it's best for everybody that the game should be canceled. And I made that clear.
JC, anything to add? Or
yeah, I mean, I would say I think for most people watching at home, and for, again, the executive committee, our staff, the players on the field, the coaches on the field, it was a clear no, and everybody knew it was a clear no. It sounds like there was a lot of checking to see what everybody's opinion was. Moments like that are time for leadership, time to step up and make the right decision. And I think sometimes when you spend a lot of time asking for everybody's answer, you're asking for, or you're looking for a specific answer, because when the obvious answer, you don't pull the trigger on it. That's why it probably took an hour, is my opinion.
Thanks, Jenny. Rob, how are you? Thanks for joining. You're up.
Thank you. Hi, guys. This is for JC. How much input do you have with the league in the discussions about potentially adding an 8th playoff team, if at all? Are you involved in those conversations?
An 8th playoff team would mean extra work for the players. The union bargains for wages, hours, and working conditions. That would increase the hours of the 8th team. It would be a necessary condition of bargaining. That makes sense?
It does. Is that something then that you're open to, that possibility?
I never talk about hypotheticals. Nobody's presented a proposal to the union. And I don't necessarily, no, okay, sometimes we do bargain in the press, but today I'm not going to bargain in the press.
Thank you.
Josina, how are you? You're up.
Hi, George. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year.
Hey.
So first thing I just wanted to clarify, especially with Dr. Mayer, did you definitively hear that myocarditis was not a contributing factor? And two, considering that Damar Hamlin is a 24-year-old, outside of a blockage in the artery or anything other than that, is there any sort of unique condition that you think could be a contributing factor, particularly for someone in his age range? And then lastly, especially with what you were talking about with commotio cordis, do you think that there is an extension of the equipment that can or should happen that potentially could absorb a blow that wouldn't cause some sort of arrhythmia, or catching it at the right time when there's an uptick, as you were describing before, that would cause such a unique circumstance of events?
Thank you, Josina. A couple in the order you raised them, I hope, and remind me if I don't get to them all. He has no evidence of myocarditis so far. A player in a situation like that, so I'm stepping away from the individual player, would get conduction studies through a catheterization that look specifically at are there accessory pathways that put him at risk. There's no reason to think so, in the sense he's had numerous EKGs in the past, and none of those showed any evidence of that. But it would be typical to go ahead and do a conduction study to make sure that he doesn't have an abnormality in that regard. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, the second question was just that, is there any sort of unique condition, other than what you guys mentioned, that could be a contributing factor? Because you guys said that examinations will continue for underlying factors that I know you're not, specifically there right now, but in terms of things that you might be looking for that could be a part of that web.
Yeah, and the answer is thank you. The answer is everything is under consideration from, and again, I'm talking about patients in general with this, and I'll come to your equipment issue as well. But everything is looked at, from the conduction system to potential for myocarditis to the potential for an apical hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Again, none of that has been ever shown up on an X-ray or any of the current studies, but that's why I say that commotio is a diagnosis by exclusion. It typically occurs, it doesn't occur often, but it does occur in youth football. And it's also most common in hockey players, in lacrosse players. A personal friend of our family, George Boyardi, played first at Landon High School, but at Cornell, and was hit with a lacrosse ball in the chest and suffered what was clearly a commotio cordis. Unfortunately, he was not an NFL player and wasn't protected by an emergency action plan, and did not have 3 highly trained emergency physicians on the sideline, although Cornell has excellent facilities. So there's a lot of literature looking at, could breastplates, could Kevlar plates, could the extension of shoulder pads, could a number of different things to protect the blow, protect from commotio. And nothing has been fruitful so far, but technology changes all the time. I'll stress what Dr. Hines said, which is this has to occur at a 20 millisecond, that's 20 thousandths of a second. That's the only interval in which you can create commotio, which then leads to ventricular fibrillation. And there have been numerous studies that have tried to replicate force, firing various forms of projectiles and all those kinds of things, not humans, of course. But you can't reproduce it. If I put a stopwatch in your hand and said, stop, very few of you have reaction times that would allow you to stop and start and have a millisecond interval. So that's what I mean by it's extraordinarily rare. And we're constantly in contact with Dr. Doug Casa at the Corey Stringer Institute. And you can't make this up, but I started on August 1st, 2001, the day that Corey Stringer died, and got a call saying, you need to become our medical director. But he's a close medical advisor for us on hyper and hypothermia, on sudden cardiac death of any type. And he and I have had extensive conversations specifically about this and what's the future of how we deal with this. That just very fortunate that it's so rare.
Thanks, Doc. Thanks, Josina.
Thank you.
And gonna end right on time with Ben Strauss. Thanks, Ben, for joining us. You're up.
Hey guys, thanks. I know you guys have been asked, and I don't mean to sort of questions anymore. But just to be clear, I guess I think like what we've heard is sort of when in that timeline of playing or not playing, that I think I guess I've heard, and just so I'm hearing you right, that you guys are contradicting what Troy Vincent said, in that the league never considered playing. Like if they're asking, like, do you guys want to play, that is a consideration of playing. And in those, a fair reading of
Ben, you're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, Brent.
Yeah.
I think I heard the question. I think I heard enough of it to answer. I heard bits and pieces of what Troy said, yesterday. All I can tell you, and I'll let JC follow up, is I never heard from a player that was interested in playing football on Monday night. I know that when Troy does, he's as close to the, acting commissioner when he's giving those press conferences. I know he's speaking from the heart. But there was never a time that I heard from a player who thought it was a good idea to go back out on the field Monday night. JC had far more communications, and he was aware of communications between the players themselves. And I can let you weigh in as well.
Yeah, I know we've obviously talked about this quite a bit. The players had no interest in playing. The coaches had no interest in coaching. I think every former player watching that game knew they would be unable to play. And like I said earlier, in times where a leader needs to make a decision, when you take a bunch of time to ask everybody else what their opinion would be, it seems more like you're searching for the answer you want and not what the right answer actually is. So we made the determination it wouldn't be smart to continue playing. The moment we saw what happened and how scary that was, again, it as we all know, it took a long time for that to actually go into effect.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate everyone's time. We will make a recording and transcript available to you as soon as it is ready. DJC and the two docs, we appreciate you very much for being available and for everybody to join. Thank you for being a part of it. Happy New Year. And best news is Damar's improving. So it's great stuff. Great note to end on.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Record.